Matthew chapter 24 and verse 27. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. You realize that Jesus is coming? Yes. That Jesus is coming back at any moment. If I had to title the sermon this morning, I would title it, Jesus is Coming. Now, if we want to get a little bit more, quote-unquote, professional and alliterated, we could use the title, Christ is Coming. But when we look at the name of Christ, it's a title. It means the anointed one. Most times, I hope, Sister Kathy, if you're referring to Brother Ken, you don't say, husband, come here. Or Brother Ken, you say, wife, come here. Normally, those aren't terms of endearment. Those that have been married long enough knows how that one goes. But when we look at personal relationships, if we're close with somebody, we don't use titles. I remember years and years and years ago, Brother Keith teaching us in class that when you're up ministering and your spouse is up there, make sure you refer to him as Pastor so-and-so or Sister so-and-so, because it sets the stage for everybody else all around. But when you're behind closed doors, you don't constantly use titles with one another. You may use first name basis, or even farther, you may have nicknames or pet names. But you're not going to use a title. When Brother Ken comes in, we always use brother and sister, but you don't refer to him as police officer Ken when he came in. That was his title, but you had a closer relationship with him. You realize that for us, Christ may be the anointed one, but we are his children. We are his bride. For us, he is the anointed one, but we don't have to go and call him Jesus Christ, being the Messiah, the anointed one, but we can simply refer to him as Jesus, because he is that friend that sticketh closer than a brother. John chapter 15 and verse 13 through 15 states, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. As believers, we are friends of Jesus. It doesn't change the fact that he is the anointed one. It doesn't change the fact that he is the Messiah. It doesn't change the fact that he is deserving of our respect and reverence. Right. But we are not a stranger to him. We don't need to call him the Messiah. We don't need to call him the anointed one. But simply we have the privilege of calling him Jesus, because we have that close, personal relationship with him. Do you realize that Jesus is coming back at any moment? And he is coming back soon. Mark chapter 13 verse 7 says, and when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs. As yet when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of war, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. I remember growing up in my teenage years, and it seems like war was constantly going on. It didn't matter where you looked. And when I say war as we think of in our mentality, nation versus nation. Here in America, it seems like it's changed the warfare style anyhow, that it's not nation against nation. But here, just within the last few months, Palestine launched a whole bunch of rockets, or Hamas launched a bunch of rockets at Israel. You know, we are still living in that time of wars and rumors of war. Jesus is coming back, and he's coming back soon. We are living in the time where we can see that one world order coming to a point. We can see it all coming together. We look at the world, and all the nations anymore are just so entwined and interlocked that when we talk about a one world government, it's easy to look at the nations of the world and say, well, wouldn't it be easy for the heads of state just to get together and dominate the small people of the world. We used to look for the Masons, or we may look for the Muslims, and it may very well come to that. I'm not throwing that out there. But here in the last year with COVID, we've seen that one world government, that entwining of pushing one philosophy. We've seen the cashless society grow in strength. In Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 and 17, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their forehead, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. We're not at the point with the Antichrist yet, but we see the stage being set of all of these things that you might need to buy or sell. And if we look at the past, if we go back to the 50s and the 60s, they thought it would have been the barcode. You take the first line, the last line, and the middle line, and you have 666. The day and age we're living in, we see it being a computer chip. Could it be something different? It could be. We're looking at it through eyes that we have now. But during COVID, there were companies that had their employees take chips in their hand to enter into the building, to buy from their vending machines. What is it? All these things are being put in place for the final battle, to bring us to Revelation. People, Jesus is coming, and he's coming back quickly. The longer we live, the more we see these things becoming more and more prominent, the more we see the push for these things. Whether in the past it might have seemed like a gradual thing, but all of a sudden it's like boom! And we're practically on the precipice of having it in place. Jesus is coming. We need to make sure that we are ready. The Bible states to learn the parable of the fig tree. There is only one parable that Jesus Christ ever told anyone to learn. He told many parables, but there's only one that he ever told them to learn. And that is the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putting forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. When we look at the fig tree in Scripture, it represents Israel. Her branches being yet tender. A tree's branches are tender when it is young. Israel became a nation on May 14th, 1948. Israel, modern day Israel as we know her, is but a young nation. Younger than the United States. Her branches are yet tender. But Jesus said, this generation shall not pass. Now I realize that no man knows the day, nor the hour, when Christ will return, except the Father. For anyone to put a date to it would be foolishness. We've seen that time and time and time again throughout history. 88 reasons why Christ is coming back in 1988. We had Harold Camping back in, 2010, who made the prediction that Christ was going to show up in, I believe it was October. And when the reporters came knocking on his door and saying what happened, and all he could do was shake his head and go, I made a big mistake. I made a big mistake. Well, duh. You were trying to predict when Christ would come back, and then he pushed it again to May or something by that. But people are trying to predict when Christ is going to come back. But one thing I do know is what Scripture tells us. This generation shall not pass. And there's many debate over what is a generation? How long is a generation? Is it 30 years? Is it 60 years? Is it 100 years? Is it the days of a man, 120? I don't know. But what I do know is 48 is what? 27 years from now, if we're going to do 100 years? Well, Jesus is coming. We may know not the day or the hour when he's coming, but he's coming quickly and faster than we could ever dream or imagine. Think about your last years. How long has 20 years gone by? How long has it seemed since 27 years went by? How long does it seem like since you were in Bible school? How long does it seem since it was the first day you started on that job and you remember being the newbie when they got on the job site? Time moves quickly. And the older we get, you don't even have to be having fun anymore for time to go fast. If Christ comes back within 100 years of the founding of Israel, as we know of her, 27 years is going to go quick for us. Now, Jesus could come back in the next 30 seconds, 10 seconds, next half an hour. We don't know. But what we do know is that Jesus is coming. And we need to make it more real to ourselves than it's ever been real before. And we need to stop using it as an excuse. You have any idea how many times I've heard when things go bad, especially since COVID, that people say, well, Jesus is coming. Well, Jesus is coming, but what are you going to do about it? It seems anymore that we use it as a catchphrase that, I'm going through the Wally Globs, I'm having the worst day of my life, this is happening, that is happening, but Jesus is coming. And we're just standing there and we're saying it, but what are we doing about it? If we really believe that Jesus is coming, if we really believe that we are the last hope of prayer for our lost family members, our loved ones, for this community, if we really believe that we are this last chance to see revival in our nation, what are we doing? Because Jesus is coming. We need to make sure that we are preparing for his return. The question is, what are we doing to prepare for his return? You know, if you really, really, truly believe something, you put action behind it. If it really, really means something to you, you're going to put action behind it. If you really, really, truly believe that if there's nobody left to pray for your family members but you, you're going to put action behind it. So many times I know in my own life, I do things and the question goes, well, what are you doing? Well, no one else is going to do it. Even growing up back home with church and stuff, well, how do you gain so many hats in church? Because the thing is, especially with small churches, when you gain a hat, Brother Russ, congratulations. You are the adult Sunday school teacher until you die now. Is that not what it seems like, especially in a small church? If you pick up a mantle, that's it. But why do we? Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? We do something because we realize sometimes that no one else is going to do it, and it just has to be done. Why do you go to work every day? I don't go to work for fun. I especially didn't go to work for fun at Walmart. But if you don't go to work, who's going to pay your bills? Who's going to make sure your house is taken care of? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? You do things out of necessity. But the truth of the matter is, Jesus is coming and there's a work to be done. And if we're not praying for the lost, if we're not praying for our family members, if we're not praying for Holmes County, Ashland County, Waynes County, over in Orville, who's going to do it? Do we really believe that Jesus is coming? Is it causing us to pray more? Are we praying for the spirit of revival, that God changes the United States and puts us back on track? Are we changing that the world might be turned right side up for him? It's the prayers of the church that holds back the revelation of the Antichrist. It's the prayers of the church that holds back the tribulation period. But if we just use it as a catchphrase that Jesus is coming and we do nothing about it, who's going to do it? Jesus is coming, and what are we doing to prepare for his return? Are we past the point where we realize that prayer is not just enough, but we have to fast? In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let until he that is taken out of the way. That's the church. Are we praying? Because Jesus said, not if you pray, but when you pray. Are we fasting? Are we fasting to see souls saved? Are we fasting for revival? Are we fasting that God gives us the the spirit of prayer for revival. Because Christ never said, if you fast, but he said, when you fast. Go to the Beatitudes. It's all right there. Jesus talks about prayer and fasting, and he never says if, he says when. What are we doing to prepare for Christ's return? Are we working for his kingdom? John chapter 9, verse 4. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no man can work. In one verse, how many times did Christ tell us we have to work while it's day? I have to work while it's day. There's at least 2 or 3 times in that one verse alone that Christ said, night is coming, but I have to work now. Do we realize that when the rapture happens, night is here? Today is the day to work. Today, we know that Christ is coming back at any moment. But what are we doing? Because if we really, truly believed it, if we truly, truly took it to heart, how would it change the way we live our daily lives? How would it change the way that we perceive that person who's constantly on the corner begging for food? How would it change our perception of those standing on the corner complaining about Black Lives Matter still? No, because they need Jesus. That is the truth of the matter. They need Jesus. Because hell is constantly enlarging herself. But even greater than that, night is coming when we can't work anymore. It's time for us to stop using it as a catchphrase for everything going bad and say, well, Jesus is coming, and take it to heart and use it and say, I need to hit my knees more. I need to pray more. I need to have the spirit of prayer, of revival. I need to have the spirit of prayer for revival in my life to a greater degree than ever before. I need to witness to the person next to me before they run out of time, because it's not just a matter of night coming when everything's over, but their night might come and their light might be put out for eternity. Jesus is coming, and we need to change the way that we perceive the world, the way that we perceive souls, because we need to reach out to greater degrees than we've ever did before. Because when we really get something in our heart, we run with it. Sister Lorianne, I remember you saying that you just felt, your spirit felt like that God gave you that you need to start putting money back because something was going to happen. If you truly didn't believe that, you would never put that money back. When we truly, truly believe something, we prepare for it. If we truly, truly believe that life is short, we're going to prepare for eternity. If we truly believe that Jesus is coming back at any moment, and if we don't work now, no one else is going to, we're going to work now. What are we doing to prepare for Christ's return? Are we telling others about Christ? Are we even trying to reach out to them? Because the truth of the matter is, we're running out of time. We are running out of time. God's clock is ticking, and we are running out of time. If you look at it from a human perspective, even the scientists will say we are running out of time, just judging by the hands on the doomsday clock. The world knows that there's going to come a time when it all comes to an end. Why do you think that Hollywood is fascinated with end-of-the-world movies? Why do you think that people are fascinated with end-of-the-world movies or anything dealing with that? Because there's something ingrained with us that we know, that there's going to be a point where everything we see around us is going to be gone or changed. And we have the truth. We know exactly what's going to happen. Yes, the earth is going to be changed because it's going to be burned up with fire. The atmosphere is going to be changed. It's going to be burned up with fire. But all those things are minor. Because the truth of the matter is, Jesus is coming. The atmosphere, the earth, the universe. So what? What really matters is where we're going to spend eternity, and what are we going to do for it now? And are we making sure that we're taking as many people with us as possible? And that we're making sure that we are praying now. I remember Billy Graham when he was at the end of his life. I think he was 90 years old when they did the interview. And they asked him, if you could do it all over, what would you do? The great evangelist who traveled the world. The great evangelist that had all these crusades. The great evangelist that during a time of segregation in this country, and they tried to rope off the blacks from the whites, took down the rope and said, we're all going to be together. His response was, if I had it all to do all over again, I would spend a whole lot more time praying and studying the Bible. Not traveling the world, not having this grand crusade, but studying the Bible and praying more. A 90-year-old man who saw God move in ways that we probably could never dream or imagine. Maybe not with the healing miracles that we know of, like Jack Coe or any of the ones before him. But a man who reached thousands and millions. If he had it all to do all over again, just pray and study the Bible. We're not at the end of our life yet. But we do know one thing. Jesus is coming. And he's coming sooner than we could ever dream or imagine. The big question in our life comes down to is, what are we doing to prepare for his return? Right. What are we doing in our own lives? Because before we can go out and reach out to our neighbor, we have to stir our own selves up. It's like a fire. You can throw all the stuff you want on a fire. But if you're really going to get all that stuff consumed, you're going to have to go back and stir it up, and stir it up, and stir it up. And what happens when you go back and you start stirring around that garbage again? Those flames that have dwindled down start shooting up, because now they're getting fed again. They're getting oxygen. No, if we're not careful in our own Christian walk, the fire can begin to dwindle. Just because we've let it set, we've let it smolder. But we have to go back at times and stir it up again. Say, God, renew me once again. God, stir this up again in my life. Make it more real and more passionate to me than ever before. Give me a burden for souls. Let my prayer be that of John Knox. Give me the United States or else I die. Give me my family or else I die. God, give me the spirit of prayer for revival. Because if no one else is willing to stand in the gap, may I be willing to say, Lord, here am I. Send me. As Sister Beth comes to the piano, why don't we stand? May we not forget this morning that Jesus is coming. And it's not a matter of not forgetting, but it's a matter of taking it to heart and making it a realization greater than we've ever dreamed or imagined. Something that's just there, constantly pricking us, constantly there, stirring at us. Something that is constantly there in the words of Jeremiah, like, it's shut up like a fire in my bones. I just got to do something. God, may we not forget that you are coming, but may that drive us to work for you in greater degrees than we ever have in the past. To reach out to our family members, to reach out to our community, to hit our knees in prayer. Even in those times when it's not convenient, even in those times when we don't even feel like it. For souls, for revival, for the spirit of revival. Because God, if you can use anything, you can use me. It's not a matter of can God use me. It's a matter of are you willing to let God use you? God's willing to use anyone that's willing. But are you willing this morning? Because he's coming, and he's coming soon. Which means that night is coming soon. So we must work while it is yet day. If that is the desire of your heart this morning, let us find ourselves a place of prayer.